in this mess. I was looking for it, and I know I have it on email, so.
I actually found a plank in that huge list of resolutions addressing that. So we'll actually have two environmental resolutions to talk about first. Environmental. Yeah, they were tucked away in a mass of resolutions. But one of them deals with the food issue.
Okay.
Deals with climate change.
Okay. And this one uses it's a guy, and he has a Chinese medical degree, but he's a chiropractor as well. But he does all more natural stuff. But he's a fabulous researcher, and he's been watching this, and he says there are some terms that we really should have in there, and so, but I'm not finding his latest. He works some of these medical issues, or helps me on our medical issues down in Austin. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go quiet because my dogs are yiping.
We've got a whole bunch of canaries that you'll hear in the background, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
My dogs get bad. They don't like the neighbors.
I'm going to turn off this light behind me just a second, guys.
After all. Do you hear my dogs? They're not barking right now.
Nope.
Okay. I'll try not to stress over them.
Mine will be in here in a little bit. She goes attacking.
There we go.
A rabbit's the worst thing for mine.
I got plenty of cottontails out here. I mowed today, and I bet I ran off 15, maybe 20.
There's so many. We just have an acre, and I don't know why they put babies in the backyard with two standard poodles who are true hunters. They eat babies all every season, which is several times a year from several bunnies. Where is this plane?
Hi, Rick.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Are you going to be our editor this evening?
Yes, your regular editor had like a some kind of Young Republicans board meeting or some other organization board meeting tonight. So I'm filling in. I'm your second best. Hey, Cindy.
Hey, he's the king of editors.
I don't know about that.
Did Jacob give you our working document from last night?
I just realized he did not. But we can catch up on that. If you want to pick up where he left off, I can go from there. I'm not sure. Did he send it to any of you by chance?
He did not send it to me.
Okay.
And then I sent him a document today where I had moved quite a few of the resolutions around just to try to organize it a little better. And I was going to see if he could merge those two
Bummer.
documents together.
I just got out of a 2-day inaugural board meeting for a nonprofit that is kind of rebuilding a board. I just got my computer back on at home, so I'm a little behind, but let me send him a note and see if he can send me something. That'd be really helpful.
Okay, and what is your email? I'll send you my revision real quick.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, and then we can use that one tonight.
Okay.
And I documented in the minutes the issues we'd addressed and what we had approved and amended and that sort of thing. So, but we will need that copy from him.
Okay.
I think we can go ahead tonight and just work on.
Okay, so that's in the chat now.
Okay.
Oh, Rick, this is Dan. You look a lot younger than I thought.
I'm probably a lot older than you think. I'm not going to ask how young or old you thought or look like. It would be too demoralizing.
Oh,
I just don't care about age. It's a number, but it's all good. How old do you think I am? I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question. Well, I'm closing the door to my office for all the riffraff in my house.
I'm going to estimate 64.
And I'm going to ask, did my wife pay me to say that? Mandatory retirement from the airlines is 65, and I did that 6 years ago. I'm 71.
You don't look so. I just turned 65.
Well, you look like a black hole at the moment.
Yeah, it's a black hole. I'm on my widescreen, but on the laptop.
Okay. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah.
This is my way of vicariously interacting with folks that actually have some influence. So I love helping out.
You should have put editor-in-chief.
I don't aspire to be the editor-in-chief. I'm just kind of a member of the team. So the team has been really, really good. So it's been, you know how it is. It's very gratifying to work with a team of folks that, I guess about half of them have really dug deep and the rest are participating. So for volunteers, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And Melinda, if you're still there, I don't have your email yet.
She's gone black hole too.
Yeah, she may be doing. Yeah, there she is.
I'm back. I just sent it to you.
Okay, I'm
If
looking.
anybody
for it.
knows where that
Just
meeting
email
is,
it
it'd
to
be
you.
nice to review
Great.
it.
It's
Thank you.
under precinct chair
Got it.
0490.
These are 6 to
Okay,
8 p.m.
so this is the HHS section.
These
Is
will
this
be 8
from
to 10
the
p.m.
Google Docs thing that we sent out earlier? Looks like probably.
Yeah,
Just
that was
click on one of these and it'll
the,
take you.
the most recent revised that you
Yeah.
sent out. I've just left it in the Word document
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. It's actually
because that works better for me.
that's fine. Google Docs strips out a lot of the formatting in Word, but this will work fine. So no worries.
Okay, and all I did was kind of move things around. They had a huge list of resolutions addressing multiple different blanks, and so I've just tried to reorganize them a little bit.
Yeah, and I apologize. You know, we got the list really late and did the best we could, but I know there's stuff in the wrong section, so I do apologize.
So, and we can kind of move things around as we go as well.
Okay.
It's almost 6:15, so if you all don't mind, I think we have a quorum. We've got Dan and Cindy and JR and Marga and myself, so we've got 5 members here. Amy is a guest that's attending, so I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order at 6:14. So if you can share that document with us
You bet.
and go down to the very, very, very bottom, because the last thing on there should be the environmental health. And I pulled up the 2 resolutions that I found that fall into that category. And we were trying to finish up environmental health last night. We thought it would be short and easy, but it's gotten a little more complicated.
I think there's no such thing as short and easy in this world.
Especially in our category.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different ways to skin the cat. Different platforms are doing. So I'm just going to try and be flexible and support you as best I can.
I appreciate it.
Some of them are simply kind of letting their members read all the resolutions and then doing recommendations to the committee. And others are going through plank by or resolution by resolution. So whatever you guys have been doing, just let me know, and like I say, I'll try to keep up. And I'm tracking changes, and I can either turn the tracking on or off if it's more helpful to read it one way or the other.
Yeah, I think the tracking kind of.
Well, so what I'll do, I mean, tracking is on, but I can show all markup or I can show no markup. And sometimes it's easier to edit with no markup, but the tracking is still done in the background. So we'll still have our.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it as is then.
Okay. So I'm sorry, where do you want me to go again?
All the way to the bottom to our very last category, which should be environmental health.
Okay.
All right, and we addressed blank 171, and we had, and all of this is on Jacob's copy, where we actually included this Gillespie County SD24 plank and created it as a new plank. So that should be on Jacob's copy.
Okay, so this is a new plank.
Yeah, so this Gillespie SD24 we added as a new plank. And then I found this plank is from Harris County SD18, and it addresses climate change intervention. And I don't know about you all, but if you could make the wording a little bit larger,
Yeah.
I think that'll help us. There we go. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
Is
down,
that better?
well, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
So,
This one is the new plank, right?
yeah, so this, yeah, that one's going to be a new plank. And then this new one on climate change intervention. We oppose all climate change intervention practices as they are known to be toxic to humans, animals, plant life, aquatic life, entire ecosystems. We believe that every Texan has the God-given right to be secure in their persons, their health, and have an ability to protect their person and family from toxic chemical exposure, support prohibiting the intentional release of polluting emissions for the purpose of geoengineering, cloud seeding, weather modification, electromagnetic radio frequency, microwave, and making penalties for violation. I can see that some of these issues are addressed elsewhere in the platform. I know when I was working on planks, that there's a plank in there that talks about protection against electromagnetic radio frequency, microwave radiation, that sort of thing, as far as protecting the grid. But I'll open it up to comments on what you all think about this plank.
So we have, in state affairs, we have something very similar to this, which is all that geoengineering based stuff.
Yeah.
10 versions of it. It's very similar.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that this plank is probably more appropriate for state affairs. I mean, I can see where they would consider it environmental health as well. But I don't know that we need to add this plank under Health and Human Services. So how do you all feel about that?
If there's already something in state affairs, I suggest we send it to state affairs.
Yes, I would do it as a send over to them to go with the plank there.
Yeah, the only thing really environmental about this, is they're talking about plant life, aquatic life, entire ecosystems. And they are talking about the toxic chemical exposure. maybe we could delete starting at we support prohibiting the intentional release for the geoengineering part of this
Send to what is already there. So
and keep the rest for us, or we could just send the whole thing to state affairs.
So what would happen if you ended right after toxic chemical exposure?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's right. Exactly that. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's
So just strike out starting at we support prohibiting.
So that section right there.
Yes, we'd strike that out.
Because they're all covered in the all climate change intervention practices, like kinda. The weather's really not, but
so. Is there not already a? Seems like there should already be something.
Rick, we need to do strikeouts and not delete.
Yeah. So that's what I said. We can either show. So we can show the strikeout, or we can. It's still in the background, but I can show it like this. That's fine.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because we're not officially, making permanent changes. Since we're temporary.
Okay.
So we're just showing our strikeouts, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Is there nowhere else in the platform that already covers businesses or governments harming people? Like, I'm wondering, are we just naming climate change to name it? It seems like we should already oppose anything that harms people.
And, what is climate change? I don't know what climate change intervention practices are.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, climate change doesn't exist. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Right, you're talking about what is the motive or intent of the agency that's harming people.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to protect are humans and animals and plant life that are being harmed by governments or businesses or even individuals.
Well,
If you think of it from that perspective.
these the wind generating devices out in the oceans are killing the whales, and that's theoretically a climate change intervention. So I can see what they're talking about, and then all the birds that have been killed from the giant wind generators. So
there is a section on environment in business and commerce that talks about we oppose environmentalism that obstructs legitimate business interests. That's sort of Great Reset. Let's see. That's really more about. Yes.
I'm just thinking we could literally have this plank in probably 5 different categories of the platform. Right.
Well, what we can do is submit it as is, and then next week, let the big committee, where we have all the subcommittees come together, maybe they can claim it as one of their own, versus having it here. This is at least addresses it in our category. So is there a motion to accept this as amended?
Motion to accept the amended language.
Yes. And is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor of accepting this amended resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. So we'll say that this has been accepted as amended unanimously. plank, this is a very simple, straightforward statement. This is from Harris County SD7, and this would be considered a new plank as well. The prohibition of bioengineered food. The Republican Party of Texas supports the prohibition of bioengineered food.
So, what do they mean by that? Almost everything you currently eat is bioengineered, from corn, wheat, to whatever.
Sorry, my dogs are going for a rabbit. I believe they mean what I'm going to read: cultivated cell technology, which often uses immortalized cell lines, which are effectively cancer cells, or mesenchymal. I have the pronunciation written down somewhere. Mesenchymal stem cells. Tissue is grown in a laboratory with the intention of this tissue being produced for food production. Doctors are extremely concerned about this. It's kind of unregulated gene therapy, and so we would want to prohibit the manufacture, sale, and distribution of food products made from cultured animal cells. And Florida has just done this, so it's not even like we're first.
So if you would take the USDA as a credible source, they define it as food that contains genetic material that has been modified through certain laboratory techniques and for which the modification could not be obtained through conventional breeding or found in nature. So essentially, messing with the DNA.
Yeah, because a lot of the products like corn is already genetically modified. I think that's what Dan was referring to. We've already got genetically modified food, but the fact that they're trying to grow meat in a lab, petri dish basically, and then provide that as our nutrition for the future, I think that's what most people are concerned about. And I think they're doing more modification than what's been done in the past. And this mesenchymal genetic manipulation that they're doing is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So we could put more specifics in that. Cindy, do you...
Animal cells is one good phrase to have in there. But if you, I can, this is a hodgepodge of stuff. But I can send it to you for words. It's hard. I worked on a document that's not what, our documents aren't the same as yours now. And so, as more stuff's being found, we're not getting the updates. And so I feel real behind on, like I didn't work on that.
Yeah, because we need to send the revised working document out to all the members of the committee, at the end of the meeting.
So that, tomorrow, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so that we all, I just assumed Jacob was going to send it to me so I could send it out to you all, but he didn't. So we'll make sure that's being done. We could add like an ABCD list that specifically addresses the meat. I think is the biggest issue.
It's the most current, gross, dangerous issue. And we could call it a cultivated, meat ban, or that we want to prohibit the manufacture, sale, or distribution of food products made from cultured animal cells. But you could throw in the mesenchymal and, that it's cultivated cell technology often uses immortalized cell lines. I mean, we could try to build that
Y'all,
in.
look at this.
I like your first statement.
Baby.
That's kind
Grandbaby.
of direct, and kind of simple and direct, and maybe we could just add that statement so that we're specifically addressing what they're trying to do with the meat, versus what they've already done to corn and wheat and, a lot of the other food
Yeah.
products.
Well, you're going to have to remove the word bioengineered food because that's too broad.
Look at
Right, I
that.
think we're not.
Grandbaby.
doing that.
Ha ha.
Yeah, just
Your prohibition of food that is generated through
Okay.
cultured animal cell, whatever.
But you want to.
Bioengineer is a broad term. Without bioengineered corn or modified corn, the yield rate is like 4 to 10x what corn was 100 years ago.
But the nutrition's better in the old stuff.
yeah. So current crops on the market or in the market are vegetable crops: apples, papaya, certain grains and seeds, soy, canola oil. Just to name a couple.
So we can just say, prohibition of the manufacture, sale, or distribution of food products made from cultured animal cells. That would be a real simple.
Distribution of.
Cultured cells.
Manufacture, sale, or distribution of food products made from cultured animal cells. And now this one, we also are thinking, while we're doing that, do we want to, and here, I'm just going to throw this out. Hold on. You could also call it bioengineered immortal cell lines, or how do you say it,
Mesenchymal.
mesenchymal stem cell lines are similarly used in experimental cancer treatments to be marketed as food, soil amendments, animal feed, or in any way fit for use or distribution, propagation, or release to the public. Because there is the thought too, you don't want this going to animals either.
No. What if we called it prohibition of biocultured foods?
I like that a lot better.
Because that specifically addresses the fact that they're growing our food in the petri dish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be something different than the bioengineered food that is already being produced.
So just
The bioengineered food in there, all the Aggies going to be upset because that's where a lot of the stuff I plant has been modified from other species to have a lot higher yield rate.
Yeah, but I think it's worth understanding the intent of the ST. There are, going back to your interpretation, and I agree with it, there are, probably 10, 11 countries that have banned GMOs, right? France, Germany, Austria, Greece, Hungary. I'm just saying, I get that it helps business owners, farmers produce more yield, but if it's harmful to people, then I think it's worth considering. I don't know if it is not. I'm just saying I think that's the heart behind the intent. But I wouldn't just take it off the table. Or I'd like.
Yeah, this wasn't about the meat stuff, but we'd like to get the meat stuff in because that's newer and
Sure.
not everybody's educated on it.
Yeah, and we could say, distribution of food products made from cultured animal cells or mesenchymal cell lines.
Yeah,
And
that would be.
How do you spell mesenchymal? That's not my history vocabulary. How do you spell mesenchymal?
I can get it up, but I'm not.
I think it's mesenchymal.
MESENCHYMAL, yeah.
Okay, mesenchymal. So give me the wording again after that, please.
Cell lines. Because that specifically, I will tell you the history of the HeLa cells. And people in medicine know about the HeLa cells. And that stands for Helen Lane. and she was a lady back in the 50s that had cervical cancer, and they grew her cervical cancer cells, and her cells were used for oncology research, and they're still available for use of oncology research. And she's actually famous because her cancer cells were basically used to develop a lot of the chemotherapy that's commonly used now. So they can from, like those mesenchymal cells, cancer cells, they can maintain the growth of those cells indefinitely. And it certainly isn't anything you would want to consume, but they have the technology to do that.
I like it as written if we want to vote on it.
All right, so Dan, you've made a motion to accept this
Second.
amended version, and Cindy has seconded it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll accept the new plank. Okay. All right, now we're going to go to our big category of the night. So we'll want to go back up to plank 137, all the way back up to under healthcare independence category, to our plank 137. Now this is how it currently stands, and there were multiple resolutions to address this particular plank. And some of them just made, small changes, some dramatic changes, and we can kind of skim through those. Now, the one thing, I sent you all, the legislative items that were passed. And we do have two legislative items that were passed that address A and D within the medical freedom.
So what are you suggesting? That we remove A and G if they're already passed?
Yeah, if they're legislative items, there was Senate Bill number 7 that was passed in the 3rd special session. And this was relating to the prohibition of a private employer from adopting or enforcing certain COVID-19 vaccine mandates and authorizing an administrative penalty for any employer that was penalizing their employees for not obtaining the vaccine.
Well, A is of a vaccine.
So that's
Sorry.
That kind of refers more to A within the medical freedom. And then,
Can I ask about the college kids, the medical students? I did not think they got protected. Am I wrong on that? I can look at the past language, but it's going to be a big bill.
it really addressed employees. The primary purpose of SB 7 was to protect employees from COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
So, just to point out with A, I dealt with this personally, it actually asserts a medical test first, and then it says including vaccines or masks. So does SB 7 include testing? So for me, my company was pretty close to forcing unvaccinated employees to get weekly testing out of our own pockets.
Yeah, which I think should be illegal as well.
Right.
I know like the lawyers downtown had to have a nasal swab done weekly. I mean, that was almost like a lobotomy to have those nasal swabs done. And, you know, that shouldn't have been forced on anybody. Plus, they only had a 50% accurate rate. So it was really worthless even to do those screenings.
Okay, so this says they can't force the vax on you and they can't take adverse action except they make an exception for certain healthcare facilities, healthcare providers, and physicians. Healthcare facility is a facility where there's healthcare. Okay, healthcare provider, a healthcare facility, healthcare provider, or physician may establish and enforce a reasonable policy that includes requiring the use of. So they left all that in for, you know, the medical, but let's see, by an individual who's an employer, contractor of the facility, provider, or physician who is not vaccinated against, how stupid, against COVID-19 based on level of risk the individual presents to patients. And it probably presents more risk if they are vaccinated.
Yeah, and I don't see that it addresses testing at all.
No, it's really pretty much, I mean, it says adverse action. Let's see, means an action taken by an employer that a reasonable person would consider was for the purpose of punishing, alienating, or otherwise adversely affecting an employee, contractor, applicant for employment, or applicant for a contract position. So, you know, like if you made me wear a mask, I would say you were punishing me. If you made me sit in another room, you're alienating me.
You required me to pay for self-testing.
Yes, you're punishing. Yeah.
Right, or wear a green lanyard, or have a sticker on your badge. Not speaking from personal experience, just saying hypothetically.
So I still have a question on the legislation. It sounds like it's focused on COVID. This is on vaccines. A is. B, I've got more problems with B than I do with A. Now, I worked for Texas Instruments before I retired. If you did not get vaccinated, you were terminated. And you were terminated for cause, which is even worse, which means you lose your pension and everything else. But it sounds like that legislative action was focused only on COVID.
Yes, it only mentions COVID-19 directly.
Right, and this says even in an emergency or in a pandemic, you know, it's expressly forbidden even in. So this is stuff for overall just our health, privacy, and our ability to make our own decisions. So
yeah. I don't see that this legislation removes A or B.
No, I don't think
because
so.
there could be a new pandemic next year, and you know, and it's not specifically COVID-19, and they could enact the same rules that they tried to enact with COVID-19. So
I think that's what their intention is, to cover anything in the future.
Yeah.
And it didn't say, this here, A covers anything in the future.
Correct.
yeah, so my feeling is we leave A alone. Now, the other one is SB 29, and it prohibits governmental entity implementation or enforcement of vaccine mandate, mask requirement, or private business or school closure to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So again, it was specifically addressed to just COVID-19.
Do you remember which, if that was a special or regular?
This here, A covers anything.
SB 29 was in the regular session.
Okay.
Yeah. But SB 7 was the third special session.
Yeah, I had that.
But neither of these protect us against future pandemics.
Right. Yeah.
So but it sounds like we leave A alone. right? Are we in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So can we discuss B?
Yes.
So as a doctor, right, what are you going to do about school attendance and all of the mandatory vaccines they put in specifically to keep the spreads of everything like mumps, measles, whatever?
We have vaccine freedom from most of those already for kids.
Yeah, but what they're saying is this is private and you're not forcing your kids to take the vaccines before they
Right.
can attend. You know,
Right.
your kids had to have a shot card before they could attend school, right?
Yeah, but you can opt out.
Yeah, and they're not requiring it for all the illegal kids that are attending school.
And that's how
That
good.
is correct.
They're not
That's
even
right.
they're not even addressing it. They're just gonna wait and see if we have a giant measles epidemic.
But if B went through, there would be no record, no opt out, no mandate, no nothing for school kids, right?
I'd be fine with that. And so would Michelle if she was here.
Sylvia, there's 4 other committees meeting right now,
I don't know.
and they're meeting again at 8. These other ones
I
are
know,
meeting
let
at
me see
8.
if did she say something about not being able to come? I'm going to see if I have her number.
So I'm just saying, I'm totally in support of A when it has to do with anything they quote call a pandemic, right? B, I remember reading this before, and if you opt out of children having basic, now right now I don't know how many shots they get. I think it's like 60 or 100, right? It's out of control, which is the other problem.
Right.
The children get from birth through whatever. I don't know when they get hepatitis and everything else now.
Yeah,
But this
it's
says,
out of
okay,
control.
we're not going to have any vaccine status at all and let our kids come to school and vaccinate.
That depends on parents. Parents can do all the vaccinating they want as well. And so I wouldn't, I mean, if I don't want to stick that stuff in my kid's body, it's a lot of mercury, it's a lot of other stuff, then
Yeah.
I don't have to. Some of the healthiest kids I know have never had a vaccine. But they had to go to private school to not have any at all.
I think it goes back to education and informed consent. I mean,
Yeah, and then you make your decision.
you educate parents, and especially in our time today. I mean, there's other options. Like, we don't necessarily need to go to a brick and mortar. We just experience COVID, right? Like, we have options for continuing education, and if a parent feels safe or not subjecting their child to going to the school for a few months, I mean, then anyway, I'm just saying the assumption that a parent is forced to send their child to school, and the school must require a vaccine in order to create a safe, health space. I think that's somewhat dated. And I think rather than the heavy-handed government forcing that, it's more about educating parents and allowing them to make decisions for themselves and their children. Opting into the risk. Anyway.
What we can do is scroll down and start looking at the other resolutions that address this. I will tell you that the only issue that I don't agree with in this Medical Freedom Act, and I feel like it got snuck in, was J. Any requirement that a nurse practitioner can only provide health care to Texans under a delegation agreement with the physician in the state of Texas. There's a big push from the nurse practitioner lobby for them to be independent practitioners and not be under the direction of a physician. And there are several resolutions addressing this. And as a physician, I'm opposed to this, and I know that the Texas Medical Association is opposed to this, because nurse practitioners, regardless of all the alphabets they have behind their name, do not receive the same training as a medical physician does.
Maybe we don't want the same training that you've got.
I didn't feel that this was even appropriate to be under the medical freedom.
It's absolutely appropriate.
Because that had to do more with individual health care. But you all can decide about that. But there's several resolutions promoting this.
I had to have an illegal home birth in the state of New York because of
the other
physicians blocking
resolutions.
lay midwives.
Some of them just make little changes here and there. Some are, significant changes. So maybe if we just start scrolling down and looking at, this is a vaccine choice, ban all vaccine mandates, prevent employers from hiring or promoting or firing based on vaccine status.
I had something on I felt like if we're just trying to have less words, that we could take out, we asked the contact tracing program, workforce and center programs agreement be rescinded, because I think those are dead now, aren't they? That would be my assumption, because we're already saying we don't want any tracing. So do we have to say, we want to rescind these programs? I think that probably got put in 2020 and then left because we were still under emergency orders last convention.
So has that contact tracing program been?
I mean, I know we paid for it, but and it was stupid. We paid for it, and then they would. I knew a kid who took a job with it and got paid like $30 an hour to call people and say, "Were you at this restaurant on this day?" Which is creepy.
Yeah, I mean that goes against our personal freedom.
Yeah,
And so
I thought that a lot of that had been paid up front. There was a contract, and we wanted that to end, but I can't imagine that's ongoing. We'd be totally ripped off if it is.
I don't have a problem striking it for now, and then I'll do some research tomorrow and see if that contact tracing program is still enforced, or if it's still enforceable. Because
even if it is or is not, they're saying they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
The first part says we don't want any of it done, and the second part says we want to get rid of it. So I guess I thought, if it's been gotten rid of, we can.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds good.
Those lines and make it a little shorter.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do a strike through I for the time being.
All of it, or just that
Well, not
sentence?
the whole thing, just that second sentence.
Okay.
That would be my proposal, is to strike the second sentence.
Okay. All right, let's scroll down and see what some of the other recommendations are.
That's kind of repetitive.
Yeah, a lot of these, and I don't know that naming particular medications, like Remdesivir and ventilators is really appropriate. I think, as we go down, there are quite a few references to patients being isolated and families not being allowed to be with them, like this number 4, refusal to allow family members access to loved ones in hospitals, leaving patients with no advocate, and to die alone. That was inappropriate, but that was generally being done. Refusal to allow patients to leave the hospital or be transferred to another one. That happened. And patients were treated differently in the hospitals, whether they were vaccinated or not vaccinated. that
I
also
was,
that also went on.
I got it bad that January of the second year before the vax was out. So, they couldn't punish me, but they did without my permission give me remdesivir, and it wrecked my kidney numbers. I got blood clots. I got all those things because of that medicine, not because of COVID. My oxygen got worse, and nobody could come see me. I was locked in the room, and I advocated for myself and laid on my stomach, and that's how I lived. I felt like they, tried to kill me, but laying on your stomach and propping yourself up is how I lived through their procedures. And so we did make a rule that you can designate one person to be your person when you're in the hospital, and that they can come in. It's something like that. And we did that in 2021 in the 87th. But it's not, just open. You can't stop people from having visitors. It's, you can't force them to stay alone. They can have somebody come advocate for them. It's more like that. I don't remember the specific language.
Well, I know in nursing homes, it's still an issue. They can still close the nursing homes to visitors and isolate them.
Oh.
So can you scroll up just a second? All right, so I look at a lot of these. Would you make a new plank or move a lot of these into the section we just discussed?
I'm seeing here.
This sounds like it would be a different section.
On Harris County 7.
Well, a lot of these are kind of similar to stuff that was in the yellow plank a while ago. I'm looking at it in the same platform, another screen.
About opposing the December 21.
Wouldn't this be under criminal and civil?
And
Since it says loopholes in law enforcement ability to fully criminally and or civilly prosecute. So wouldn't that be under criminal justice?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out how to shorten a lot, if possible.
Yeah, this medical tyranny deals more with criminality and punishment for abuse. It's a little different than medical freedom.
Yes.
I agree with Marga that maybe this should be referred to do we have a category for, what's our category for
Criminal and civil.
criminal? How about criminal and civil justice?
Yes.
And refer this to them.
Is it probably going to rights and protections?
Yep, because
criminal?
the categories are rights and protections, court prosecution, family law, law enforcement.
Somebody
So
let Jackie
this could come
know.
under rights and protections.
Yeah. I think it was
Yeah,
SD2.
yeah, just for justice for medical tyranny.
Justice. Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Not
That's starting there and going down. That's what needs to
Okay, thanks.
be referred to them. And then this is recommending an amendment. The inalienable natural right of a person to refuse any medical procedure, treatment, injection, device, vaccine, or prophylactic shall not be infringed, questioned, or interfered with in any manner. And, informed consent was not provided for the vaccine, because it was considered experimental. So they weren't required to provide informed consent and tell you everything that could possibly go wrong if you took this vaccine. And if you stood in line and you allowed them to jab you in the arm, that was considered inferred consent. So even though you didn't sign a consent form for the vaccine, you have inferred consent by allowing them to jab you in the arm. So in their mind, you consented to the vaccines because you stood there and let them give it to you. So, but no one was given true informed consent with regards to the possible devastating complications from the vaccine.
And that's sort of an H, I think, in the big yellow one. It says any Nuremberg Code violations, including but not limited to the requirement that use of experimental use medications must provide full knowledgeable consent and be free from any form of coercion or inducement. Isn't like saying full knowledgeable consent, but it's only talking about experimental use of medicine. That's an H on that one.
Well, that would be the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because the COVID vaccine was considered experimental. That's the way they get away without giving informed consent, and it's very difficult to sue them from the complications. They're just
and they call informed consent. One of my kids' doctors, I stepped out because he was like a 14-year-old boy, and he gave him a shot that I didn't want him to have, and I said, but it's too late. He already gave it to him, and he claimed he had informed consent because I asked him, son, do you know the definitions of this? Do you understand what you got? No, Dr. Joe just told me to get it. So,
but a 14-year-old can't legally consent.
I know.
Treatment.
Yeah. You can't take it back. It was done.
And you wonder why we don't trust physicians.
I looked at them the same, and I was much more careful.
Jesus.
Okay, so that's only talking about it up in the healthcare independence. It only says experimental, but I think we need to have full knowledgeable consent for any vaccine. So that's
I'm trying
why
to open
some of
more
that stuff,
Coke.
I think, is different.
And parental consent, parental written consent for any minors.
Well, can we amend H to add that in there since it's already there?
Yeah, because I think there are some things in this Denton 12 support vaccine choice. There are some things that we could probably put. Most of them are up there. I saw one other thing that I didn't think was there.
Yeah, let's see what SD. Go down to SD7. Let's see what amendments they made to it. Yeah, they added that personal health care decisions are private and informed consent is a basic human right up in the introduction. So they took it out of A and put it up in the introduction.
Oh, that's the one that reworded it, and we thought their wording was better than what was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reworded it better. It was smoother. I thought we made that change last night.
Yeah, for an addition of the Texas Bill of Rights to explicitly state that Texans have the natural and inalienable right to refuse vaccination and other medical treatment. Yeah. Let's see, did they make any other changes down below? Let's see, Michelle put in the chat written informed consent paperwork.
Oh, good. Michelle's here.
Written informed consent paperwork is already required. The issue is whether there's full information about risks and benefits, and if there's coercion or any kind that completely discounts consent.
Good question, Sylvia.
I really have no problems with their changes to A and B.
Yeah, I don't even, did they make any further changes down below?
No, I didn't see those down there.
Okay.
No. Oh,
Michelle, are they still doing contact tracing? I think that's over. I don't think we still have those agreements. Do you know? Because that would be a change to make down there. Yeah, they're just not saying things twice. There's some things they put in the top. They made the top a little more concise, and then took that language out further down. That was the rewrite we thought was really good.
yeah, and Michelle, please unmute and opine on any issue that you want to speak about.
She says she's meeting right now, but she just responded saying contact tracing is illegal. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we can't take that out. Good.
Yeah, so we can remove that. Okay. All right.
So did we?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
because
did
we need your
pick up here
input,
then?
Michelle.
Did we change some stuff up here that we need to incorporate then?
yeah, we already struck it there in red, so that's fine.
This part, yes.
Unless we're subbing SD7's version, then we've got to make the change to that
Yeah.
version. Say we're scrapping the original and putting in this, so you can do it either way.
Yeah, let's just strike it in the SD7 version.
I'm sorry, say you want to use this portion of SD7?
Yeah, we're gonna keep the changes with SD7, and then we'll add our strikeout
Okay.
under, I think it's what which one is it with the contract? I think it's down below a little bit.
Jay, isn't that Jay?
Yeah.
J. It's in J. And you know what I would do though? I think we'll have a better time selling it if we don't say we're substituting an entire plank. If we say we're making these changes in the original plank, I think that's an easier thing to move through at the committee as a whole, of the whole.
Yeah, rather than a substitution.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
it's not that change. If maybe you can do some copy pasting.
Okay.
Making the changes.
I'll be right back.
What's this tool that has like the one at the top and another one? That's pretty cool.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me?
I'm just looking at how you've got the one that you're
Going off, Rick.
Oh, it's
Here.
just-
I know.
Split screen.
Rick's got the skills.
Yeah. Yes.
Michelle is here. Can you hear me?
All right. Hi, Michelle.
Okay. I stepped outside.
Need you on this part.
Yeah, this.
Yeah. I tuned in and I was like, well, I'm here at the right time, but it's really hard for me to talk where I'm at. But I'm taking a break from that meeting so I can give my input. Okay, so is this the first of the 137 changes that we're going over?
Yeah, we're just beginning to address it.
Yeah, I'm looking. So, what we proposed, we were trying to clean it up, the language of 137, and have it very directed at choice in what goes in your body or on your body. So, mask choice, vaccine choice, and areas of policy that are not currently have not been addressed yet. So, denial of medical care. Kind of like expanding what was passed in the third special session, SB7, to cover all vaccine instead of just the COVID vaccine, so that you're never at risk of losing your job because you didn't want to take a flu vaccine, which is currently a legal thing to do. You can be fired for that. So,
and you know they've added COVID-19 into the flu vaccine without telling people.
yes, they're doing combo shots for all kinds of stuff. So, we know that COVID is essentially done as far as pandemic status is concerned, but we also know that there's disease X, there's bird flu that they're ramping up. So we need protection for all vaccinations, immunizations, whatever you want to call it, whatever nomenclature is used. So the resolution that we put forward in support of vaccine choice cleaned up the current language, made it less convoluted, and then got it focused on areas of policy that urgently need to be addressed. So I don't know if that helps at all, but
Yeah, we decided that the two legislative bills really didn't change our plank because they're only addressing COVID-19. And our plank wants to emphasize, protection against all vaccines.
yeah, and I'm fully in support of that. I do see that D addresses social transitioning, which I think that maybe it would be more appropriately addressed in a different link that is talking about transitioning. But I'm open.
Yeah.
That is addressed in state affairs.
Yeah. And I think it's also addressed in some
Yeah.
regard in education.
And we also have a gender modification plank.
Yeah.
So I'm
You're
also,
here for the YR? Yeah.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
maybe not in this plank, but if some attention is to be given to like informed categorization of what is a vaccine, right? Because I think like part of what happened is they used this Trojan horse of the term vaccine to usher in an experimental, something else, but because it
Therapy.
was labeled a vaccine, they were able to basically abuse that, the public trust under the term vaccine. So what I guess I'm getting at is like some kind of transparency around, okay, great vaccine, but what kind of vaccine? Should we require the drug companies to give more detail about, is this like a historic vaccine?
All
or a
vaccines,
new
therapies for experimental.
one? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and they'll consistently change the definition so that it will
Right.
fit whatever the new technology is. They're talking about a fentanyl vaccine. It's not a vaccine against fentanyl. It's just a way to
not
dull the
have
effects of fentanyl.
Right.
Right. And I think I saw something the other day about, it was something so silly, vaccine, oh gosh, for UTI. And it wasn't actually a vaccine. It's not a preventative.
Yeah.
But they have repeatedly changed the definition because if it falls within the definition of vaccine and it goes through the advisory committee on immunization practices and gets approved by the FDA and all of that, then the manufacturers are immune from liability.
Yeah, and that's why everything is quote a vaccine now, because the pharmaceutical companies are immune from liability.
Yep.
So now everything is a vaccine, plus they charge an enormous amount of money for a quote vaccine, and they're using vaccines as the new, treatments, because they're protected, and they're making an enormous amount of money. It's just win-win-win for them at the expense of of the American health.
And it fast tracks the drug as well because they don't have to do as much testing and.
And the COVID vaccine never had the testing trials that it would have under normal conditions. And with the number of adverse reactions, it never would have been passed by the FDA under normal conditions because there were too many adverse reactions. But I don't see experimental vaccine, the word experimental used anywhere, because that creates a different category if the vaccine is experimental. And that's how they got away with, not really giving adequate informed consent because it was, quote, experimental. And maybe,
Well, they were covered by the PrEP Act, and I mean that was a federal act that allowed them to do outlandish things. I mean, it made them immune from liability for assault. So you have that kid in North Carolina who was vaccinated against his will and without parental consent, but when his parents sued, the court said, well, the PrEP Act covers this, so they can't do anything about it.
well,
So it's all, I mean,
can we recommend the repeal of the PrEP Act?
I would recommend the repeal of the PrEP Act, the repeal of the 1986 Act that made them immune from liability, and we've tried to pass resolutions to compel the Congress to do that, but I mean, but it's one of 50 states, and we're up against a giant. So,
Well,
I think we need to.
I think we need to add those into this particular plank that we want those laws that are going against our medical freedom to be repealed.
And I think that is a worthy mission. I think, though, as far as like our party platform and what can be accomplished in the next 2 years, I think it would behoove us to focus on the things that can be changed in Texas, things that are happening on a regular basis in Texas, to patients, to employees, to children in schools, private schools. There's a lot that needs to be done here in Texas, and then we can kind of take bigger bites out of the elephant, in my opinion.
Okay.
I would say some of this is just plain what we believe, as Republicans. We believe that we should have vaccine freedom and that there should be liability for bad product. So, I mean, I think that's why some of it's in here.
Can we add experimental vaccine in there as a category in addition to vaccine?
I don't think each act covers that.
Under the Nuremberg Code.
Yeah, experimental vaccine is still a vaccine.
It says use medications. Maybe we need to say and vaccines.
Yeah, or vaccines.
Or vaccines,
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you add it right there? Or vaccines, put comma, vaccines or experimental vaccine. If you want experimental somewhere.
Yeah.
Or do you want a whole new plank?
No, I think it can go in there. Just to.
Yeah.
Do you want experimental treatments instead of vaccines?
I like treatments too. There are a lot of treatments. They need to make sure that we have total consent or able to deny. But the doctors up there, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they include medications, vaccines, and treatment, all under the experimental use.
Oh. So we have experimental here, so we don't need it again. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Michelle, is there anything that you specifically wanted to add to this plank?
I can't access the Google Doc right now, or the doc with all of the planks. But I know it was passed in SD5.
All right. Well, let's look at the SD5 resolution. It's probably on down, and also the Gillespie resolution, I think, has some additional information in it.
Okay, just a note, it looks like they have A through L, and we don't have, in this one, we have A through K, but I don't see this one down here, so we may have to come back to that. But you want me to look at which one now?
SD5, Williamson County.
Yeah, it's
And I think SD9 passed it as well.
yeah, there we go. There's the Williamson County.
Yeah, they don't have it in a list form, which is strange, but those are
This
kind
is
of
very similar to what we just said in all those other planks. Affidavit without security or scrutiny, which is, what is this? Reason, affidavit without scrutiny, what is that?
okay. So, in order to exempt yourself or your minor child for reasons of conscience or religious, philosophical, anything other than non-medical and non-military, you have to order an affidavit from the Department of State Health Services. They then send it to you. This costs $600,000 a year in taxpayer funds, but they send it to you. You have to get it notarized and turn it in. And many times you'll have schools or places of employment that will push back and say, well, show us in your religious doctrine that it says that it's, against your religion. But that the affidavit exists so that you don't have to show any kind of proof of your belief. It's just whatever reason other than non-medical, this is what you turn in. Ultimately, we want to eliminate any need for the affidavit, but we're not at that spot yet. We're pushing this next legislative session. We'll be pushing just to be able to print them at home so that we're kind of inching our way to your vaccination status being completely irrelevant. But kind of a long answer.
Well, I'm trying to understand. I understand what you say, but up above, we're saying we don't even have to reference that because we're against, if you look at everything that's in here, we're against it all. I mean, we agree with the whole mess on vaccine choice, whether you want it, don't want it, what? That's your business. So,
I mean, like I said, our ultimate goal is to make your vaccination status irrelevant. So you wouldn't have to turn in any sort of form. You wouldn't have to bring forth any, it would just not be a question that's ever asked of you by any public or private entity. And that's a swing for the fences thing. We deliberately made a resolution and a plank that is focused on what can be achieved in the near term. So we're focused on these next 2 years. What should we go for directly and get changed, because this is what is urgently happening to families and we're getting calls every day about. We'd like to address those issues and then inch our way toward complete freedom.
Do you feel like nobody will carry it if you don't have the specific in there, that nobody would help you with it?
If we don't have
so
a
are you
specific,
suggesting we remove that one sentence and add it up to the yellow section above, the one on affidavit?
well, I would like to see this entire paragraph as far as bulleted out. That's what I would prefer to see in the plank, or as the plank, because it's far more concise, direct. It's something that is more easily achieved in the near term, and is something that the legislature can address. I don't disagree with anything that's written in the yellow part. It's just
I can see each statement as a bullet point. Prohibit students of any age or field of study from being denied educational opportunities based on vaccination status. Next, prohibit the big issue is to prohibit the denial of emergency or life-saving medical care based on vaccination status, because that happened in the hospitals. If you were not vaccinated, they treated you differently than if you were vaccinated, and you had different outcomes because of that.
Right.
So each statement I could see, you know, we could add as a bullet point, and then kind of go back and look at it overall and see if we can condense it a little bit.
Right, where it overlaps.
Yeah, but there are some issues here that are not being addressed in the original medical freedom plank. So let's format it as bullet points and see how we like it.
And just so you know, I'm not tracking changes on this one because we're rewriting it from scratch. It's not the existing platform, but I'm saving the original for reference.
Yeah.
So if I read what I'm looking at, what you want, the last red bullet to me could be moved up to yellow, but the rest of that is pretty much covered in yellow. Well, now I guess it's the second from the last for the resource zone. Doesn't. If you want to have legislative priority, then you take the last two bullets. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Because we talk about prohibit, students, all that other mess above their ban, vaccine mandates, schools. That's what we discussed before. And then, why would you just not move the bottom two up? But if you want to make it specific, you make a new plank, like you said, that says, hey, we want the legislature.
I'm on my phone, so I can't see that entire yellow part right now. But I will say that even as somebody who is a huge medical liberty advocate, a daycare is going to sometimes have to, saying that they can't tell a kid that they need to go home when they're perceived health. These are not doctors or nurses that are working in daycares, but they can look at a kid and perceive that that kid is sick if they've thrown up, or if they're just, they're super tired and off and feeling warm. I don't know about being kind of a little confused about that.
Yeah, I think the last two bullet points could be additions to the original, because that's addressing specific issues that aren't noted.
And your question about B, I think B is specifically addressing COVID. I think that's probably why that was in there. I don't know. It's a complicated one.
Yeah. Do you understand my concern about the language?
Yeah. The way it's said, its goal is that your status is personal and private. And so, but there's stuff in there that
it's the perceived health and the infection recovery. Those two are kind of, they go against kind of common sense measures that a school or a daycare would use to, if you're sick, stay home.
But it's relating it all to, as a condition to maintain or obtain housing or employment or employee benefits, attend school or child care. I think what they meant to say is, if you don't have a vaccine, you can still rent at this apartment complex and you can go to this child care. That's what they mean, probably, but yeah, they have too many words in there.
add the bullet point of prohibit the denial of emergency life-saving medical care based on vaccination status. And then the last two bullet points.
So can we go up and look at the yellow to see if my memory's bad? I thought there was something very similar to that in there already.
That's what I was looking at, but I didn't see anything particularly to that.
Yeah, I don't think it addresses that particular issue.
All right. Sounds good by me. Those three?
Yeah, those three. So the last two, and then the one that addresses denial of care based on vaccine status.
So are we leaving that part C in there about transitioning?
In the yellow,
Mm-hmm.
I think we can talk about deleting that since that's really addressed in other planks. Let's add these three in there, and then so that would be like LMN.
Yeah, we can do the numbering later.
I think the second one's already in there where it says reject or attempts to mandate force. That's already D.
Yeah, that one may already be in there.
Yeah, D's already that one. The middle one on the bottom, it's D. It's already in there.
Okay, so we can delete, reject any attempts to mandate, force, coerce any medical test, procedure, product, including vaccines or masks on Texans.
Yes.
Can you scroll up so I can read these? Thank you.
All right.
What it? Health insurance surcharges? Okay.
And it already has medical, public, private, government, medical entities, vaccination, vaccine passports, mask requirements. So that's already in there.
I don't. Okay. I guess I'm
And
a little.
A covers some of the part that's on there too, because A covers medical tests, procedure, products, vaccines, and masks also.
I think we could probably even eliminate C and that first bullet point and just add any attempt by, in A, add any attempt by any public or private entity. And that would cover.
I would like to speak. I'm going to be against taking out C. I wouldn't mind moving it to the bottom so that, these kind of go in order. Medical privacy, vaccine specific stuff, and then C. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it's pretty complicated. What we're saying in here is that teachers can't withhold, nobody can withhold this information from a parent. And so unless I don't remember where all it was, but I haven't run it.
There's part on the platform, and I think under family and gender issues, it might be under education as well.
Well, education is separate, so you've got to address it separately there as opposed to the doctor's office. So this is medical, medical providers. or mental health
No,
provider.
I understand that. I don't know how that fits into medical freedom.
I know it's
fits
odd.
into like parental rights.
I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it in general, because it's a battle we're still fighting.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree that it's a battle we're still fighting. I just don't know where it fits under medical freedom and not under.
It's odd that it's in there, but that's why I thought, well, because at the bottom, the parent has the right to know. It's the parent's freedom to know everything, relevant to their child from a physician or a mental health provider. So I think.
Is this specific, but the parent right to know from any entity or provider or whatever, is that not addressed elsewhere in the platform?
Yeah, that's what I've got to find. I don't recall it. I thought I knew it was in two places, and I think we didn't care. I think we're glad it was in two places.
Cindy, I think everyone supports C. I just think maybe referring it to a different place, like so.
Right.
Bottom,
not deleting. There's a difference between deleting and putting it someplace else.
Yeah, so I think
that's
we
what I'm
refer it to the parental rights section, because I think there's a parental bill of rights, so to speak, or parental constitutional rights of parents or whatever.
Right.
I know there's one in education.
There's family rights and family.
Hey guys, I'm setting the phone down for a minute. If you need to see this, go
Okay,
click
that's
on
weird, then I guess
the
you could put
thing.
it
I'm going to leave
in
it running though.
Education as well. We need it in both those places.
And you're lucky because I am on state affairs and I'm assigned to family and gender issues. So
And
I promise. I
and
promise I will get this
You're not
done.
as lucky because I'm on education, so I'll do my best.
So there is also a homosexuality and gender issues blanks 155 to 158 in this section.
Mhm.
Yeah. Those are more general, though, aren't they?
I know that there's
Cindy,
a lot of resolutions coming up that address this.
Yeah.
So Cindy,
Convicting
I
other
agree with
areas.
you. I have no problem with being referenced twice or more. There's a lot, and I like where it's, to be honest, where it's sitting. Now, if you want to the bottom of this section, I just assume keep it in this section.
I just was under the assumption that we're being tasked with, if we're adding something, we need to subtract elsewhere. So if we're being redundant, then we're not achieving the ultimate goal, which is
We've taken out a couple things that are redundant, and we're really not adding a plank at this point. So I think we can get by with what we're doing.
Yeah, let's just make a little notation after C that this reflects probably more of a parental right category than medical freedom. And then that way we can come back and address it if we need to, but we put a little notation there.
And then let's not forget to go back to J.
Yeah, and then and put a little.
You can search for these two asterisks.
This also doesn't belong in the medical freedom, I don't think. And plus, I don't support nurse practitioners practicing independently without physician supervision. But
Some of us do though.
they have a huge lobby, and they'll have a huge lobby at the convention.
Yes, for
promoting
good
this.
reason.
So much so that I thought they actually got it in. I was surprised to see it back, and I thought people didn't know it was in, and then I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, but I would like to strike J.
And did you hear what they talk about? Like their main things are that the doctors just charge them a fortune and don't do a darn thing. That's their premise. That's what they're laying out.
The
So I
doctors
just want you to know
prohibit
that
a lot
that's
of
what
good
they're
things.
talking about.
So can I ask you a question on the background of this other than what you've already said? So nurse practitioners and PAs, a lot of the towns out where I'm at that have, say, 750 to 1,500 people, all they have is a PA or nurse practitioner in the town. You're saying right now they have to be associated with a MD in some other location or a DO in another location, right?
Yeah, I mean, they require overall supervision by a medical physician, but they may appear to be practicing independently, but they are under the guidance of a medical practitioner.
This is a big problem
that
with
may
lay
be
midwives.
Using telemedicine to communicate with them and discuss the patients that they're caring for. They cannot practice independently. But because there's such a doctor shortage, they're using these second level providers more and more. But they still have to be under the supervision of
What does supervision mean? That's the question.
The physician is supposed to be reviewing all the medical records.
Like
and
in
making
New
sure
York,
that they're providing
you
appropriate
cannot
care.
have a home birth
Is the
unless the
physician liable?
physician allows it.
Nurse practitioner as well?
The physician is liable for whatever that nurse practitioner is doing under his supervision.
Yeah,
And Texas has gone
like
to
an engineer, working
nurse
under an
practitioner
engineer's stamp or,
midwifery. There's no more lay
I guess,
midwives
a
allowed in
broker
Texas.
realty, right?
Yeah, and all their notes should be co-signed by the physician. They may electronically be co-signing
Bureaucracy.
all their notes, but they have to be co-signed by a physician. So
they're trying to cut the physician out to save the money because they obviously have to pay
Not just money.
or do something for the medical provider. I mean, down here, the nearest, a lot of these towns are
We
30
need
or
more
40
medical
miles.
freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
And you bill less for a nurse practitioner, so it decreases the medical costs by using these PAs and nurse practitioners because they bill at a lower level than a physician does.
So the physicians want the money.
But they're not acting independently. They're being supervised by someone.
And that's the way it should be.
And that's the way it should be.
No, it shouldn't.
But yes, if we can strike J, then that that we added some and then we deleted some. So
That
we're
needs to
trying
be
stay a
put
little
back in the
balanced
platform.
Here. All right, so technically we have about 5 more minutes. Can we run down and look at the Gillespie resolution because I thought they maybe had some additional ideas. If you can pull up the Gillespie one.
This one?
They wanted to establish this as a new vaccine choice plank. So Michelle, do you want to speak to, I don't know if Michelle's still with us, if she wants to speak to what they're recommending, or if it really looks any different than what we're already discussing.
This is, with the exception of the part about making it a legislative priority, I think this is exactly the resolution we put forward.
Okay, all right. And most of them were very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
So well, let's go back up then and look at our yellow plank and look at it one more time and see if we want to amend it a little bit further before we vote on it.
A lot of those are already on there.
And Michelle, make sure you're happy with it. make sure that.
Ooh, okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if it was all contact tracing or just COVID contact tracing. I think it was all contact tracing that we've already addressed legislatively in 2021.
Yeah, didn't they do away with that contact tracing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can strike that.
But some of change or strike all of Y.
Yeah, I think we left the first statement in, but put a strike through the second statement.
Okay, I'm not sure what you're asking here. Do I have, am I caught up or did I miss something there?
No, you got it right.
Okay.
I was asking if college students are protected and medical students are protected from all the mandates. And Michelle,
Just COVID.
Just COVID, yeah. Okay.
Just COVID. Currently, the only thing that hospitals are required to offer, and only for specific vaccines, is a medical exemption. And that has to be very specifically worded to match CDC recognized contraindication. So it's extremely restricted. There's no requirement that they accept the standard affidavit for reasons of caution.
And does that apply to college students as well, or only the medical community?
College students who are going through certain courses of study, which is why it's so important to say students of any age and any field of study.
Okay, and did we put that in this one? I'm sorry, I missed if we did.
It's in the SD5.
It's
included in the SD5 resolution.
Yeah.
Down at the bottom.
But were we going to build them all? Are we building them all into this yellow one, the big one, or are we doing separate then and we pull some stuff out and move it, back to vaccine?
I think we're trying to build them all into this one.
That's what I thought. So I didn't want you to forget the students that are left out and the medical community that is left out. Because like POTS, they don't even count that as a medical problem, and it's a serious one.
Right. Well, and they would fall either under, as far as medical employees and volunteers, they would fall as either working for a public or a private entity. So,
yeah. Oh, okay. And we have that in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then can we scroll down and look at the additional 3 that we added at the bottom? Because that was from the SD5.
The middle one, we already have that. Reject any attempts to mandate, force, or coerce.
I think that's A, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so we should probably strike through the second one there, since that's a duplication.
I'm pretty sure
Now,
the one on the second from the bottom, we discussed that earlier in the meeting. I don't know where it is above you, but we discussed it already.
I think, are you talking about the prohibit the denial of any public service or benefit?
Yeah, I
based
thought
on,
we discussed that one before.
So
And
it's
it was in there.
It's in B, but it's kind of wrapped up in this other language that I think is poorly written.
Hospital that's fine with me leaving it in. I'm a verbose guy. I'd rather have more than less. I know that's not what
I'm the opposite.
Patrick wants.
Yeah, Rebecca with Protections for Vaccine Choice was really excited about the point that passed in 2022. She said it's so robust, and I was like, strike all of this. It's too wordy, but we come from different backgrounds. But I think that if we could put prohibit the denial of any public service or benefit based on vaccination status, if we could put that in place of B, I think that we would be addressing what B is trying to address without kind of expanding into territory that I think is not really advisable, I guess.
All right.
Like not being able to send a kid home that looks sick or appears sick.
Yeah, let's move that underneath B as a proposed amendment for section B.
So you want to move this line up to where?
Underneath B. Yeah,
B,
between
okay.
B and C. As a proposed amendment.
looks good.
Do the words public service or benefit, does that include, like, you can go to daycare without a vaccine, or if it's a private daycare, or you can come in my store? I can't stop you from coming in my store because you don't have a vax.
Well, that would be addressed with under no public or private entity can mandate a vaccine.
Okay, so we're just adding.
We're saying that,
also
yeah.
public services, like the stuff you guys got passed or somebody did for the Medicaid people who couldn't get a doctor.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. But even just to get that passed, we had to allow an amendment to carve out organ transplantation, which is insane. Like, why would you need a COVID vaccine to get a kidney transplant?
Because they don't want to give one to somebody. Yeah.
Right. But that's, there's a senator that had an organ transplant, and that's what he wanted.
All right, and then so we'll remove that prohibit the denial of any public service there at the bottom, since we moved it up. And then that leaves us with preserve the statutory protected right of Texans to utilize Texas exemption as our last item. All right, so do I have a motion to accept our amended version of Plank 137?
Motion to accept.
All right.
Second.
In a second. And Michelle, I think you won't be able to vote on this, but we appreciated all of your input. Thank you so much. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
You don't live here. I'm sorry.
Pardon?
I think somebody walked by her.
And Michelle did send something that said she's not with a lobbying company, and so it's different.
Okay, so she's not considered a lobbyist.
Not in the form that they're referring to. They're referring.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's. I had asked some lawyers about that as well, and they were saying it was lobbying firms.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she made sure and discovered. Oh, now she's
Okay, good. All right. Very good. All right, so we had a unanimous passage of our amended version of Plank 137. So thank you all so much. This was quite an ordeal to try to get through this tonight, but I think we did an awesome job, and I really appreciate all of our knowledgeable committee members that could contribute to this. Y'all have any other issues you want to discuss?
So we're gonna get an email with the updated, what we just did?
Yeah,
Okay.
Rick, if you could reach out to Jacob and maybe merge his changes from last night with the changes on this document.
Yeah, he did send me his version.
Are you young?
It was a Google Docs version, so I'll have to work to put it together, but I could do that tomorrow. So my all-day board meeting was today. Tomorrow I'll have some time to do that. So you may not get it until mid-morning tomorrow.
Oh,
but
that's
I'll send
fine.
you this. Yeah, I'll send you this updated.
Okay, and then I will send this out, and then tomorrow night we can start and just keep on moving forward. This was our biggest accomplishment tonight, so thank you all so much. I'm gonna have to officially adjourn the meeting at this point and close out so that the next group can come on.
All right, thanks, Melinda.
Yeah, and I will be 100% unavailable tomorrow for the meeting because I'll be at a kids' awards thing.
Okay.
Time for the next
Okay,
meeting.
thank you guys.
All right, y'all have a great evening.
Okay, let me turn this off. I finally got a tripod set up, a little tiny one. Okay. All right, I'm doing education committee next, I guess. And for the record, you can go to the RPT site, the convention site, and scroll down to the pre-convention meetings. You have to click on latest updates or something like that. So if you go to their committee, go down, See, we've got latest news. Go down to pre-convention committee meetings. Click on that, and they have all these meetings that they're doing. They have 6 o'clock meetings, then they have 8 o'clock meetings. So if somebody wants to go stream one of these, I do not see the rules committee from last night anywhere on the RPT page or YouTube or anything. So if anybody finds that, please let me know. Other than that, I'm going to click over and get this started on a new stream. So check my page for the new stream in just a few minutes.